Hey, what's up, everybody? We're doing something different tonight, so if you're seeing this and you're not subscribed to this channel, make sure you subscribe. This is my backup channel under the original name, Cold Beer Confessional, so make sure you subscribe. Hit the like button too, that's right. I thought it had like 500 subs, I guess not. This is going to be a recap of the front part of the Trump lawsuit, and then if you're a $7 and up Patreon, we're going to go into the second half of the show, Patreon only, with the rest of the lawsuit documents. I don't know how many people will be here, probably not a whole lot, because most people don't know about this channel, but we'll do what we do. We'll figure it out. We've been thinking for ourselves, never let the truth fade away. We won't let the world burn away, we feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake it to the back of the pack, kill it anyway. What I need to do is post this. Oh, sorry. I need to post this over on my main channel. Hold on. I'll post it as a community post on my main channel. I didn't think about that. This is just in case we lose the main channel sometime. Who knows? Welcome everybody. I am Will Bird, and this is the Cold Beer Confessional. Actually on the right channel, Cold Beer Confessional. It's been a long time since I had a channel with this name on it. I guess I've had this backup channel for a while, but it's been a while since I broadcast on a channel that had the right name because we had to move after, you know, Travis and his channel. I'm dropping the bot links right now. I didn't get a chance to drop them. If you're watching on Facebook, you're fine. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Because this is not the main channel I'm usually on. This is a backup channel, so it's only got 100 and some subscribers. Let me start the bot, and we'll talk about what we're covering tonight. So, recently with the Patreon, with my patrons, my $15 and up patrons, I did the Trump lawsuit, and we started on it, and it's actually huge. I didn't realize how many pages it was, so we only made it to page 37 is what we made it, reading it. And we read it line by line, went over all of it, and got sidetracked and told stories and everything else. So tonight what we're going to do on this backup channel is, if you're here, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like the video. I'd appreciate it. Share it if you want to. But we're going to recap the first 37 pages without going quite as in-depth and without getting sidetracked, hopefully. And then if you're a $7 and up patron, we're going to take it to a Patreon show to finish this lawsuit documents. There's a couple of, I guess, conversations that were recorded, text message threads that were recorded, different things back and forth. We're going to go over that. So thank you for joining us tonight. If you want to support the show, you guys know how to do it. Cultclub.com, KULTKLUB, buymeacoffee.com/coldbeer, or join our Patreon. $7 and up, you get an extra show tonight. So Let's pull this up and check it out. Main display. Don't forget tomorrow's night's game night. I think we're going to play earlier in the day with motion, and then later in the day we're going to play our game at a normal time, 7 p.m. We're going to play our horror game. I don't think motion wants to play a horror game right now, but we're going to play the zombie game tomorrow. I'll try to. I don't know how to play it, but we're going to figure it out. So this is a Trump lawsuit that was recently filed a couple days ago on the 24th. It names Hillary Clinton, HFACC Inc., Democratic National Committee, DNC Services Corporation, Perkins Coie, the law firm, Michael Sussman, who works in the law firm, Mark Elias, that works at the law firm, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, head of the DNC, Charles Holiday Dolan Jr., Jake Sullivan, John Podesta, Robert E. Mook, Philip Raines, Fusion GPS, Glenn Simpson, Peter Frisch, Nellie Orr, Bruce Orr, Orbis Business Intelligence Limited, Christopher Steele, Igor Danchenko, New Star Incorporated, Rodney Jaffe, James Comey, Peter Stork, Lisa Page, Kevin Kleinsmith, Andrew McCabe, John Doe's 1 through 10, and ABC Corporations 1 through 10. At the first part of it, it says that it's just him filing against all the people he's filing against. And it says in the run-up to the 2016 presidential election, Hillary Clinton and her cohorts orchestrated an unthinkable plot, one that shocks the conscience of and is to an affront to this nation's democracy. Acting in concert, the defendants maliciously conspired to weave a false narrative that their Republican opponent Donald J. Trump was colluding with a hostile foreign sovereignty. The actions taken in furtherance of their scheme, falsifying evidence, deceiving law enforcement, and exposing access.
They eat us for dinner. Sorry, they are fucking piranhas.
Meat Hammers Rule. That's from Liberate Sherbert. Thank you very much, Liberate Sherbert. I appreciate it. They falsified evidence, deceived law enforcement, exploited access to highly sensitive data sources, and are so outrageous, subversive, and incendiary that even the events of Watergate pale in comparison. So they go on to describe that even though they call it opposition research, which happens all the time on both sides, opposition research is just a thing that happens where you investigate your opponents. That's how we have things like we found out that Herman Cain had a mistress. We find out weird stuff about candidates all the time. Ladies come forward and get Me Too'd or become Me Too accusers. Different things comes out about people's past. There's accusations flying around. All that comes from opposition research. So there are companies that literally make their living off just saying, oh, well, back in 1992, this guy did this. You know, they'll dig up everywhere you ever voted if you're a politician. They'll dig up every business deal you ever did if you're a businessman. They'll dig up everybody you ever donated money to if you had to register it, or if you didn't. They'll dig up crazy accusations. They'll go out and visit with Stormy Daniels and bring accusations against you. They'll do all kinds of wild things. If you're running for an office, a major office, and if they think they have a chance to beat you, it seems like the best place to run if you don't want to have your name smeared, and you don't want to have everything dug up about your past, is either in a county where there's no chance you'll lose, like it always votes Republican and you're the only Republican candidate, or somewhere where you know you'll never win because it always votes Democrat and you're the only Republican candidate. That seems like that's the best place to run. Either definitive loss, definitive win, then no one cares what your background's like. It says the scheme was conceived, coordinated, and carried out by top-level officials of the Clinton campaign and the DNC and the candidate herself. So it seems like the DNC already had a plan from the get-go that they were going to boost up Hillary no matter what, right? And they were already planning before Hillary had even won the nomination what they were going to do about the Republican candidates, not just Trump, but the other ones as well. They tried to so they went through the reason they went through a law firm, the reason they went through Perkins Coie is because, first of all, everybody goes to a law firm just to, cross your T's, dot your I's. Second of all, they thought maybe some of their some of their conversations back and forth would be protected under attorney-client privilege, but it doesn't seem like that's the case because of the crimes that were committed in the conversation. So you can have attorney-client privilege where you tell your attorney, hey, I murdered someone, and the attorney can't tell on you, can't testify against you. But you can't have attorney-client privilege where you guys plan to rob a bank and then go rob a bank. Like, if you're committing a crime while you're doing it, it's not the way it works. Mark Elias, I never figured out how to say his name. It was his mission to obtain derogatory anti-Trump opposition research commissioned by Fusion GPS, an investigative firm, and his co-founder Peter Fritsch and Glenn Simpson, and directed them to dredge up evidence, actual or otherwise. It seems like the further they went not finding actual evidence, they just decided they were going to make it up. That didn't exactly work well for them. I mean, it worked well for as far as making it up, but it didn't work well for them getting away with this. They went on to fund the Steele dossier. We know about the Steele dossier. Christopher Steele, the main person that provided him most of his information, seemed to be a guy named Igor Danchenko, who had close ties to a senior Clinton campaign official who was Charles Holiday Dolan Jr., and knowingly provided false information to Danchenko, who relayed it to Steele, who reported it in the Steele dossier, and fed that deceptions to both the media and the FBI. So it's one thing to feed opposition research that you're like, I'm not sure if this is good information. I'm not sure if this is true. I'm not sure if this will hold up in court. It's another thing to coerce an FBI investigation out of it. Another thing entirely. Then we're talking about lying to police officers. Hold on just a second. Sorry, I didn't want my nose running the whole time. I had to blow my nose. I didn't want to do it on screen. I'm not Mike Penny. I'm not an animal. So they made the Steele dossier. They fed the Steele dossier back to their clients, of course, as well as the media, as well as the FBI trying to start an investigation. We're on the backup channel on YouTube. That's the last time I want to say it. We're on the backup channel on YouTube. There's links everywhere. There's a link in the chat. There's a link on my YouTube channel on the community page. There's a link in Telegram. There's a link on Facebook. There's a link everywhere. But they seem to fill it everywhere to get it out there, to discredit Donald J. Trump and his campaign. Now, they had plans for every freaking a Republican candidate that might have won, and I don't think they were expecting Donald Trump to win. I bet you they probably had better dirt, at least more realistic dirt, on the people who were like lifetime politicians like Rubio and Cruz and those people, right? I'm sure they had better dirt on those people because they were lifetime politicians. They wouldn't have had to make as much shit up. But that happens on both sides. Anyways, this shit happens on both sides. I don't know how much of the making up does. I'm sure some of it does. I'm not sure how much of it gets reported to the FBI as true. But opposition research is big business. There's companies, we looked at companies the other night, that their entire thing they do is just research other people to make them look bad. Smear campaigns. You pay them enough money, they'll research anybody, they'll make them look horrible. At the same time, Michael Sussman, in his hunt for damaging intel against the Trump campaign, turned to News Star, an information technology company, and one of its top executives, Rodney Jaffe, a fervent anti-Trumper who had recently been promised. Oh, we talked about this last time we talked about it. So this might not have been possible on this scale if we're talking about any other candidate in the world. Trump brings people together through hate, like Trump derangement syndrome. We've never had a candidate or a president that brought more people together through hate. At least, I mean, not in my lifetime, not in most of your lifetimes. Maybe fucking George Washington was a really diversive president. I don't know, but it seems like Trump brings people together through hate. I don't think they would have had so many people on their team had they not have done this. They tried to set up a connection between Trump Tower and Alpha Bank, which is a known Russian bank. When it didn't exist, when this connection didn't exist, what they did was they made fake email accounts that looked like the Trump email account, that looked like the Alpha Bank email account, customer service. And then they both went on this website that was like a sales website, like where you buy and sell fucking trade shit. And they talked to each other on this website with these fake email addresses to make it look like the bank and Trump were talking to each other. And it didn't. No, it is absolutely Trump hate. These people aren't swamped. Some of these people aren't establishment. Some of these people have never served in a political role in their life or interacted with a politician ever. One of them is an IT guy. All he's done is program computers for his entire life, and he said, "You know what? I hate Trump. I'll do it." So yeah, it's Trump hate. Like I said, we've never had people rolling around on the ground screaming and crying because somebody got elected to the White House. It's Trump hate. These are regular people. I'm not talking about politicians. Whatever. The ill-gotten data was then manipulated to create a misleading inference and submitted to law enforcement in an effort to falsely implicate Donald J. Trump and his campaign. All of these acts were carried out in coordination with the Clinton campaign, the DNC, and the behest of certain Democratic VIPs. Quote, while their multiple prolonged attack was underway, the defendants seized on the opportunity to publicly malign Donald J. Trump by instigating a full-blown media frenzy. Indeed, the Clinton campaign and DNC admittedly on a mission to raise the alarm about their contrived Trump-Russian link, repeatedly fed disinformation to the media and shamelessly promoted their false narratives, all while Hillary Clinton, Jake Sullivan, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and others did their best to proliferate the spread of these dubious and false accusations through press and social media and other public statements. The fallout of the defendants' actions were not limited to the public denigration of Trump and his campaign. The FBI, relying on defendants' fraudulent evidence, commenced a large-scale investigation and expended precious time, resources, and taxpayer dollars looking into the spurious allegation that the Trump campaign had colluded with the Russian government to interfere in the 2016 presidential election. So that's crazy. That's crazy that they not only did this research to make him look bad, but also to get these people to get an investigation started. It's one thing to claim, oh, like this guy's a horrible guy. It's kind of weird that he gave this guy money. It's kind of weird that, he was at this guy's wedding. It's another thing to go to the FBI and get an investigation started. Normal people on the left don't give a fuck about the exposing of the swamp. They don't believe there's a swamp. They hate Trump. If you're telling me that people don't hate Trump, you literally said they don't hate Trump. That's not true. That's not true. There's tons they hate, not on Trump. No, they hate Trump with a passion. They do entire marches and protests and stand out in the fucking road and scream and grab their pussy and all kinds because they hate Trump. They hate Trump. The person, they hate every word he says. They hate how he made his money. They hate the way he looks. They hate Trump. I didn't know this was a debatable point, that people on the left, general voters on the left, hate Trump. I figured everybody would agree on that. That was just like a given. A small faction of Clinton loyalists who were well positioned within the Department of Justice and FBI, including James Comey, Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, Kevin Kleinsmith, and Bruce Orr. These government officials were willing to abuse their positions of public trust to advance the baseless probe to new levels, including obtaining an extrajudicial FISA warrant and instigating the commencement of an oversight investigation headed by special counsel Robert Mueller. As a result, Donald J. Trump and his campaign were forced to expend tens of millions of dollars in legal fees to defend against these contrived and unwarranted proceedings. Justice would ultimately prevail. Following a 2-year investigation, special counsel Mueller went on to exonerate Donald J. Trump and his campaign with his findings that there was no evidence of collusion in Russia. So I know Trump likes to say this, like he was exonerated. He wasn't exactly exonerated. It's hard to be exonerated from anything. most of the time, even when you have like a, let's say they have they have an investigation into a bank robbery, a break-in, a missing person, a murder. It doesn't matter. They just clear you from the investigation. Typically, they don't come out and make a statement saying they exonerate you. Because exonerating you, saying you have nothing to do with it, blah, 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 we're done. But they don't. They usually just clear you from the investigation and never pick it up again. Actually, a lot of places have like 5 years. Well, I guess it depends on where you're at. A lot of jurisdictions have so many years that they can still prosecute shit. That they can still charge. They still decide to charge you with stuff. Like let's say you're arrested, and let's say you're arrested for, I don't know. Let's say that you're arrested for disorderly conduct. Typically, when you go to jail and get released on bail, you'll come and meet with a DA or whatever. Your lawyer or somebody will talk to the DA. They'll just let you go home. They won't tell you that they're not going to press charges. They'll just say, okay, you're free to go. But they have years where they can decide to press charges. And you have this weighing over your head for years and years and years. When we were talking to, Perception is a Reality with Christopher Bilbrey. We were talking to Christopher Bilbrey. When they sent him home after they arrested him at that town hall meeting, when they sent him home, they sent him home. They arrested him. He went to jail. He made bail. He got out. His lawyer started meeting with the district attorney. The district attorney said, no, he's fine, whatever. They would not say, we are not going to prosecute you. They won't say, we are not going to prosecute you. Instead, they'll say things like, you're free to go right now. We'll be checking back up with you, blah, blah, blah. They will not say they're not going to prosecute you because that closes too many doors for them. What if new evidence comes in? What if a new witness comes by? What if new information comes through? They don't want to close that door. And someone like a DA telling you we are not going to prosecute you is just beyond the pale. They will not say shit like that. The same way that Robert Mueller wouldn't come out and say he's exonerated because 5 years down the road, there might be brand new evidence of security cam footage of him doing something crazy, right? And from that footage, who knows what's going to happen? So typically, they don't come out and exonerate anybody, okay? They don't come out and clear anybody completely. They just don't do that. They've got so many years they can decide to press charges. But Trump does like to claim he was exonerated. I think Robert Mueller's exact words was, we did not find evidence of. That doesn't mean evidence doesn't exist. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. His exact words, and being very specific to those words, because he's a prosecutor like anybody else, is, we did not find evidence of. The full extent of the defendant's wrongdoing has been steadily and gradually exposed by Special Counsel John Durham, who has been heading the DOJ investigation.
They eat us for dinner. Sorry, they are fucking piranhas.
Meat hammers protect their own, and it's awesome. Look what a good thing you've done, CBC. Thank you. Liberty Sherbert bought you six packs. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for the donation. Thank you for the support. I appreciate it. Is this a new channel, or did YouTube unsub me? No, this has been the backup channel for like a year. I just don't broadcast over here much unless it's Patreon stuff. Does the lawsuit have legs? I don't know. I'll probably go, once we cover it, I'll probably get someone else's legal advice that's maybe handled something like this before or seen something like this before. Because the claims he's making, this is the way it works in my mind, and I could be completely wrong. Sometimes you'll go to criminal court. Let's say you go to criminal, not yet, it's not a Patreon show yet. Sometimes you'll go to criminal court, and let's say it's a murder trial. And let's say the person who did the murder gets off because there's just not enough evidence. Even though a lot of people believe that, hey, this person did it, there's just not enough evidence to actually convict. You can't beyond a shadow of a doubt say it was this person, even though like a lot of the public thinks it is. A lot of the people surrounding the case thinks it is. A lot of the pundits thinks it is. You can then take those people to civil court for money and sue them and possibly win. So you failed in criminal court to prove they murdered someone, but you can go to civil court and sue them for taking your baby's life or something like that and win money. Now, these allegations he's making, but I always see it. If it's a criminal charge, it goes to criminal court first, then it goes to civil court. It goes to criminal, whether it's guilty or innocent, it goes to criminal court first, then it goes to civil court. This, he's claiming criminal actions. He's claiming criminal actions against these people. Yeah, like O.J. Simpson. You're right, Venom. He's claiming criminal actions against these people, but he's not taking them to criminal court. It seems to me like there's a chance the judge can say, okay, you're claiming they did this, 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 and this. Those are criminal charges. Did you take them to court? Did you criminally go after these people? No? Well then, I don't know what we're doing in civil court. You just want me to pay you money because they committed a crime against you? I don't know. I think there's a chance that it might just get thrown out because of that. We'll have to see. I don't know. I'll probably look to a more experienced lawyer by the time when we get done going over this. We're going to catch up to page 37 tonight, which is where we left off of the Patreon show, and then we're going to take it back to Patreon to finish. But everybody can watch right now, and this is the backup channel. Make sure you subscribe to it. All right. In short, the defendants, blinded by political ambition, orchestrated a malicious conspiracy to disseminate patently false and injurious information about Donald J. Trump and his campaign, all in the hopes of destroying his life, his political career, and rigging the contest in November in favor of Hillary. When their gambit failed and Donald J. Trump was elected, the defendants' efforts continued unabated, merely shifting their focus to undermining his presidential administration. Worse still, the defendants continue to spread their vicious lies to this day, as they unabashedly publicize their thoroughly debunked falsehoods in an effort to ensure that he will never be elected again. So something like this, okay, the reason like something like this wouldn't hold up in court is he's saying to this day, they still push a false story about me. The problem is it hasn't been proven false. Like they decided not to prosecute because they didn't find enough evidence, but it hasn't been proven false. There's a difference. There's a big difference between being completely innocent of something and not being prosecuted for something, right? Being completely innocent of something and not being prosecuted for something. And basically what they've said is we didn't find evidence to prosecute. We didn't find evidence to prosecute. They didn't say he never did this. There's no chance in hell. This was all made up. That's not what the Mueller report said. As much as it maybe it should have, but that's not what it said. This describes why the jurisdiction would be in D.C. This is a lot of people thought this was filed in Florida. There was even people running around saying it was filed in Florida as like people in charge or some shit, but it wasn't. It's filed in D.C. or at least it's going to be court is in Florida. Or court isn't going to be in D.C. It even says right here, is New York doing business all over the United States. Clinton's emissions arise due to his contact to other jurisdictions, including Florida. So they're doing it all in D.C. This names every defendant, where they live, where they work out of, blah, blah, blah. Let's go down to these bullet points. We'll get there in a minute. The bullet points is what we need to get to. Okay, statement of facts. This is where we got into. We didn't finish all these, but we're going to go through them. The DNC and the Clinton campaign become one. Clinton declared her candidacy on April 12, 2015. Shortly thereafter, in April 2015, the Clinton campaign retained Perkins Coie, a law firm with long-standing ties to the Democratic Party, as its general counsel. It was clear from the early days of the Democratic primaries that the DNC, which according to its own rules is required to maintain impartiality and even-handedness during the Democratic primary nominating process, was backing Clinton the whole time. We kind of know what's been made public that they did to Bernie, right? they weren't going to let Bernie get the nomination. They just weren't. Will the Durham report play into this? It kind of already has. So some of the stuff about Sussman, about Perkins Coie, that stuff that's been found out by the Durham report. I think those trials might have to be settled before this one to be settled. I don't know. They talked about Guccifer 2.0. It was noted that he hacked it. It was noted that DNC sought to provide a contrast between the GOP field and Hillary Clinton HRC. And that it would use specific hits to muddy the waters around ethics, transparency, and campaign finance attacks on HRC. So they knew that Hillary Clinton was going to be hit with about her ethics, her transparency, and her campaign finance. So they were going to put out stuff to kind of make it. They weren't going to outright lie. They were, but they weren't. They're saying they're not going to lie. Instead, they're just going to muddy the waters, right? So you can't really tell where Clinton got her money from. Someone claims Clinton got money from this corporation. You say, no, Clinton gets money from 37 super PACs, and a lot of them donate to orphanages, and some of them run churches, and one of them over here buys clothes for the needy. You just muddy the waters. You just put more shit in there. Clinton's perceived vulnerabilities as a candidate. The DNC had outlined a plan to damage Republican candidates' credibility with voters by looking for targeted opportunities to undermine their specific messaging. The DNC memo also discussed opposition research and a strategy to utilize the research to place highly targeted hits against Republican candidates. Now, this sounds really scary. The DNC memo also discussed opposition research and a strategy to utilize the research to place highly targeted hits against the Republican candidates. That sounds scary, but I guarantee you, if you went to the RNC, you'd find an email that says the exact same thing. Hey, we're going to use opposition research, and we're going to use it to form highly targeted hits against all the Democratic candidates. Around the same time as later disclosed through the WikiLeaks release, confidential DNC documents, Schultz, the head of the DNC, stated in an email that Clinton's Democratic competition, Bernie Sanders, isn't going to be president. How could Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the head of the DNC, send an email to Clinton's send in an email that Sanders is not going to be president? How could you put that out before the primary even started? It's weird. Furthermore, Donna Brazile, the vice chair of the DNC, said in criticism of Schultz, she hadn't been very interested in controlling the party. She let the Clinton headquarters in Brooklyn do as it desired, so she didn't have to inform the party officers how bad the situation was. So she didn't care. She wasn't running the DNC. Clinton's office was running the DNC. In around mid-2015, in an effort to foster greater coordination and cohesive with Clinton and the Clinton campaign, the DNC retained the same law firm, Perkins Coie. So later, in mid-2015, for some reason, they obtained the same law firm for the DNC. They retained the same law firm for them that Clinton picks for her candidacy law firm. Weird. Two Perkins Coie senior partners, Elias and Sussman, were largely responsible for handling the firm's representation of the DNC and the Clinton campaign in their legal, political, and other affairs. Elias, in particular, was designated as general counsel for both the DNC and the Clinton campaign. That seems like a conflict of interest, no? The joint fundraising agreement was nothing more than a thinly veiled effort so they had a joint fundraising agreement through their fundraising that they were going to raise any funds that were coming through were both to support the DNC and the Hillary Clinton campaign. Again, muddying the waters. This time not so much for me or you to know where the money's coming from, but this time to know where the FCC to know where the money's coming from the SEC, the Election Commission, to know where this money's coming from. Let's go on to the next bullet point. The Clinton and the Clinton campaign and the DNC conspire with their attorneys, Perkins Coie, to frame the Republican candidate Donald J. Trump. On June 16, 2015, Donald J. Trump announced his candidacy for president and sought the Republican nomination. seeking to thwart Trump's campaign to diminish the likelihood of him winning the elections. The Clinton campaign and the DNC devised a nefarious scheme to discredit, delegitimize, and defame him by proliferating a false narrative that Donald J. Trump and his campaign were actively colluding with Russia to interfere in the 2016 presidential election. This plot was conceived and funded by Clinton, the Clinton campaign, and DNC, and would require the participation, cooperation, and assistance of many individuals and entities acting in concert with one another to willfully carry out the numerous torturous and criminal acts. The defendants had a meeting of minds and a common objective: to irreparably harm Trump's ability to get elected to the end and in his political career. Why I'm stuttering so much now?
Getting excited. Need to calm down. We got plenty of time. It's okay, chat.
To start, the Clinton campaign and the DNC enlisted the assistance of their joint attorneys, Perkins Coie, which is weird, again, that the DNC and someone who they're supposed to be representing fairly. I wonder what... hold on. Let me Google something right quick. I know I said we weren't going to get sidetracked, but I'm getting sidetracked. I'm trying to see who who the Bernie Sanders campaign got as their law firm. I know it wasn't Perkins Coie because they were coming out against him when the WikiLeaks stuff come out. Oh no, that's not what it means. This is something else. This is not it. Like if they'd been representing both of them, then something else would be happening. Perkins Coie is on record urging DNC officials to accuse Bernie Sanders. Yeah, it's not Perkins Coie. I just wanted to make sure that they didn't all have. So isn't it weird that one of your top running candidates in the primary has the same law firm as you and even the same general counsel as you? That's weird. The Clinton campaign and the DNC chose Perkins Coie to oversee the coordination of their plan for a specific purpose. They anticipated that conspiring with their legal counsel would help conceal their dealings under the shroud of attorney-client privilege. However, attorney-client privilege is wholly inapplicable to the pertinent discussions between these parties. Not only were the communications between the DNC, Clinton campaign, and Perkins Coie non-legal in nature, they were also furtherance of a criminal and fraudulent wrongdoing. So again, attorney-client privilege is only good for a conversation we have in a legal nature. So if we have attorney-client privilege and you're representing me in a burglary case and I start talking to you about changing the spark plugs on my truck, unless it's the day of the crime or leading up to the crime or something like that, it has nothing to do with it. It's nothing to do with it. It's not protected. And we can't also, you might be representing me for burglary and you and I plot to rob a bank and then you drive me to the bank. None of those things would be covered because we're furthering a crime at that point. A lawyer can't help you further a crime and then say, sorry, I can't tell you. Attorney-client privilege. That's not how it works. Specifically, the Clinton campaign and the DNC directed Perkins Coie to coordinate a two-pronged plan to publicly and falsely denigrate Donald J. Trump, with Elias and Sussman each leading parallel operations to wrongly and implicate him as colluding with Russia. On one front, Elias would work with Fusion GPS and a host of others to develop a dossier based on lies, misinformation, purporting to show an incriminating link between Trump and Russia, which would be used to mislead law enforcement officials and ignite a media frenzy. On a separate front, Sussman would commission the information technology company Newstar to brazenly hack servers from highly sensitive locations, including Donald J. Trump's private residence, Trump Tower, and most shockingly, even the White House, to uncover proprietary data that could then be manipulated to give the impression that Trump was engaged in an illegitimate business with Russian bank Alpha Bank. So these statements right here, these bullet points, are under the statement of fact. Now, these don't have to be true, but what they have to be is what you and your law firm reasonably believe to be true and the reason for bringing the case. So some of these might get, let's say in court, it comes out that they didn't actually hack his personal residence. They only did, Trump Tower in the White House. They didn't do his personal residence. That doesn't take away from the case. That doesn't get this thrown out. That doesn't make this disappear. That doesn't get Trump in trouble. That doesn't get the lawyer in trouble. None of that. But let's say he claims on here that the sky is green, and the reason it's green is because Clinton changed it after she lost the election just to make Trump look bad. Well, that they don't believe that's true, and no one would reasonably believe that's true based on the evidence that's already been submitted. That wouldn't be allowed to go forward. That might actually be a reason to get the lawsuit kicked back and not accepted, and you would have to refile it. So you have to reasonably believe it's true based on what's going on around the case. When you file this, that's what the statement of fact is. I know it says statement of fact, so you think it's only like factual details. It's not really, because I'm sure the Clinton campaign would disagree that these are facts. And it hasn't been decided yet in court, so no one's really right and wrong. Elias recruits Fusion GPS and others to manufacture a falsified set of reports known as a Steele dossier to effectuate the first phase of defendants' conspiracy involving the creation of an incriminating dossier. The DNC and Clinton campaign would require the services of an investigative firm to dredge up derogatory opposition research on Donald J. Trump, and to the extent there was none, to manufacture it. On March 1st, Fritsch, who owns Fusion GPS, sent an email to a senior figure in the Democratic Party and conveyed his belief that Trump had to be stopped, end quote. The Democratic contact responded stating, "Yes, let's talk." The senior figure in the Democratic Party arranged for Fritsch and Simpson, the two owners, to meet with Elias. The meeting took place on April 20th, 2016 in Washington, D.C. In and around April 2016, on behalf of the direction of the Clinton campaign, the DNC, Elias, and Perkins Coie retained Fusion GPS. In particular, Fusion GPS was hired to perform opposition research for the Clinton campaign and the DNC. The Clinton campaign and the DNC were well aware that Fusion GPS had a well-documented history of employing a scorched earth strategy wherein the company would produce false and or misleading dossiers to be spread through the media to damage his opportunity to win the election. The Clinton campaign, the DNC, Perkins Coie, and Fusion GPS each understood that Fusion GPS' true task was to prepare a fraudulent dossier. So this right here, I'm sure the Clinton campaign is going to say, hey, or the law firm is going to say, no, we didn't want him to make a fraudulent document. We wanted him to make a real document, and we believed it to be real. That's the reason we proceeded with it. So this right here, where it's statement of fact, this is like Trump's set of facts that he's coming with to write up with. The defendants are going to have a different state of facts, and the person who's going to decide is going to be the judge if the case proceeds. The Clinton campaign and the DNC funneled funds through Perkins Coie to Fusion GPS's research. Fusion GPS would then report to Perkins Coie attorney Elias for results of its investigation. In fact, Simpson and Fritsch reported only to Elias and did not have any contact with the campaign brass. That was a quote. Not have any contact with the campaign brass. As Fritsch and Simpson recounted in their book, the relationship was set up that way for a specific reason. Per Elias, Fusion GPS was walled off from the Clinton campaign and the DNC for, quote, legal reasons. If Fusion's communications were with a lawyer, they could be considered privileged and kept confidential, end quote. All at or around that time, Nellie Orr was an employee for Fusion GPS. So Nellie Orr, not a lot of people know who she is. Nellie Orr is actually the wife of the other Orr that works at the Department of Justice. On around that time, it'll say it in just a second. Nellie Orr was an employee of Fusion GPS, so she worked for the Dossier company. where her role was to conduct extensive opposition research on Donald J. Trump's family members and campaign. Mrs. Orr's husband, Bruce Orr, was an associate deputy attorney general with the Department of Justice. So she literally works at the Dossier company doing research against Trump, and her husband is an assistant deputy attorney general with the Department of Justice. Seems like another conflict of interest, but maybe that's just me. And yeah, not a lot of people know who Nellie Orr is, or even who Bruce Orr, or that they were involved in this situation. But it don't look good that she's doing the research. The Department of Justice ends up with it under the FBI, and then she's the one who did all the research. Don't you think that that guy's gonna be a little bit partial to his wife's research? I would think so. The Clinton campaigns, the DNC, Perkins Coie, and the Fusion GPS knew that his close relationship with high-ranking DOJ official would be of great value in effectuating their plot. They understood that Mr. Orr would be instrumental in lending credibility to the Steele dossier by having Mr. Orr serve as a seemingly trustworthy intermediary to disseminate it through the government channels such as the FBI and the DOJ. To develop the dossier, the Clinton campaign, the DNC, Perkins Coie, and Fusion GPS turned to Orbis Limited, a private intelligence firm, and its owner, Christopher Steele, a former British intelligence officer. So Orbis Limited is still available. They still do this type of research, clandestine research. They do it for political reasons. They do it for like hostile takeovers of company, ousting a CEO. They do it for smear campaigns. They do it for they probably do it for damn TMZ and shit. They do investigations. They still do it to this day. Danchenko, a Russian citizen, had been working as a contract analyst with Orbis. So he worked at Steele's company, for the famous Steele dossier. One of the guys that worked there was named Danchenko, was a Russian citizen, had been working as a contractor for Steele's company since 2011, focusing primarily on Russia and Eurasian geopolitical matters. Dolan, then an employee of public relations from K Global, was a longtime participant in the Democratic politics, having previously served as chairman of the DNC, state chairman of the former President Bill Clinton's 1992 and 1996 presidential campaigns, advisors to Clinton's 2008 presidential campaign, and having been appointed by Clinton to 2 4-year terms as advisory commission of the U.S. State Department. With respect to the 2016 Clinton campaign, Dolan actively campaigned and participated in calls and events as a volunteer on behalf of the Clinton campaign. So Dolan was one of the reasons they chose Orbis Limited. Danchenko was one of the reasons, and Dolan was the other. The fact that he had intimate ties with Dolan, who was a close associate of the Clinton campaign, and Danchenko and him were close. Danchenko is the Russian agent. In late April 2016, Danchenko began having discussions with Dolan about a potential business collaboration between Orbis Limited and K Global to create a dossier to smear Donald J. Trump and to disseminate the false accusations to the media. Those discussions reflected that Danchenko and Dolan had exchanged information regarding each other's backgrounds and professional activities, including Danchenko's work for Orbis Limited and Steele. On or about April 29, 2016, Danchenko sent an email to Dolan indicating that Danchenko had passed a letter to Steele on behalf of Dolan and intended to set up a meeting between the two. The same day, Danchenko sent an email to Dolan outlining certain work that Danchenko was conducting with Orbis Limited. The email attached an Orbis Limited report titled Intelligence Briefing Note, Compromat, and Nadzor in the Russian banking sector. On or about June 10, 2016, Dolan sent an email to U.S.-based acquaintance which reflected that Dolan and Danchenko had become colleagues and were exchanging information. In describing Danchenko, Dolan stated, "He is too young for KGB, but I think he worked for the FSB, since he told me he spent 2 years in Iran. And when I first met him, he knew more about me than I did," with a winking emote. With a winking emote. That's crazy. To think that, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why you. So the FSB is Russian Federal Security Service or whatever. It's a federal body. They have the authority to implement different government policies, and that has to do with like national security. So the KGB is like our CIA, right? They're their spies. The FSB would be like, I don't know, kind of like our NSA, but it'd be kind of like our NSA and a secret group of our FBI tied together, maybe. So he's saying, I don't think he's a KGB agent, but I think he works for the FSB. He knows a lot about me. Wink. Jesus. And this is the guy we're getting information from. And then claiming that the other people are the ones that are fucking with Russia. In or about June 2016, Fusion GPS officially retained Orbis Limited and still to find links between Russia and then Republican candidate Donald J. Trump. When no such evidence was found, the directive shifted to manipulating the truth and develop a false narrative that Donald J. Trump was colluding with Russia. And taking on this assignment, still was aware that, quote, Democratic Party associates, end quote, were paying for his and Fusion GPS's, quote, research, end quote, and that, quote, the ultimate client, end quote, was, quote, the leadership of the Clinton presidential campaign. So it's saying right here that he knew that he was working for Democratic Party associates who were paying for it. Democratic Party associates were paying for his research, and the ultimate client at the end of the road, the ultimate client is the Clinton presidential campaign, the leadership of the Clinton presidential campaign. Yeah, so you're right. So the FSB did come after the KGB, but it's split. So it also became the SVR, which is the Foreign Intelligence Service, which is more like what you think about when you think about. Venomsplat's actually right, and I'm wrong. So when the KGB shut down, they became the FSB, but they also became the Foreign Intelligence Service, which is the SVR. When you think KGB agent, you think more like the SVR, right? Because they're like the spies, the clandestine, the overseas, the blah, blah, blah. The SFB is more like the NSA part and like a secret FBI. They're like more homeland shit, national security measures. The SVR is abroad. Kind of like our CIA is not supposed to fuck with us, but they still do. They're not supposed to, but they do. Anyways, you're right. Critically still had testified that the candidate, Hillary Clinton, was aware of his reporting. Furthermore, still shared the common goal of the defendant's overreaching conspiracy. He was desperate that Donald Trump not got elected, and he was passionate about Donald J. Trump not being president. Soon thereafter, at the direction of the Clinton campaign, the DNC, Perkins Coie, and Fusion GPS, Orbis Limited, and still with the assistance of Mook, Nellie Orr, Danchenko Dolan, and others, began preparing approximately 17 anti-Trump memoranda, known collectively as the Steele Dossier or simply the Dossier. Uh-oh. Oh yeah, they'll just like the reason I didn't make this just a public video is because I didn't want to stir up the Q-tards. This has no chance of putting Trump back in office. Zero. This is not Trump's, this is not Trump's ace up his sleeve. This isn't going to put Trump in office. This isn't going to take people to jail. All he's asking for is millions of dollars. That's the only possible outcome. That's the best outcome he could get is millions of dollars. Not to mention, they're going to delay. They're going to reset. They're going to ask to review the evidence. They're going to push the date. They're going to keep pushing it back, pushing it back, pushing it back, pushing it back. That's if a judge even accepts it. It might get thrown out. The judge might read this and say, hey, you need to take this to a criminal court. I don't know what to tell you, bud. Throw it out. This is absolutely not going to put Trump in the White House in any way, shape, or form. So the reason I didn't do this as a free video and I did it behind my Patreon wall is because I know a lot of Q-tards are going to wander in here and say, oh, here, this is it. this is it. This is what they're got. There is no chance. So you're saying there's a chance? No. There is no chance that this puts Trump in the White House. He's asking for millions of dollars in restitution. He's not, this isn't a crime. No one's going to get convicted and go to jail. No one's going to get, this isn't an end all be all. This is, hey, you guys owe him some money because he had to defend himself legally and he kind of ruined his name. This is almost like, it's almost as frivolous as Phil suing me for saying, the stuff about his past. But at least Phil's can be proven with actual documents, not made up ones. Robbie Mook, the manager of the Clinton campaign, had denied having knowledge of who funded the dossier. However, Elias testified he sent the bills from Fusion GPS to Mook. The dossier was intended for not only to harm Trump's candidacy, but more importantly, it was fabricated to induce the FBI to commence an investigation. This is the bad part of it. There's one thing about, I don't know if you guys know this. You should. But you should know this. The campaigns when they're running against each other, a lot of them lie. They'll hide a portion of the truth. They'll only tell one side of the story. They'll give it the worst possible spin they can. They'll do everything they can to make somebody look bad without giving them the benefit of the doubt at all. So this happens on both sides. Not to this level, of course. That's why we're having so many issues with it, but it does happen. Yeah, the problem though is where this is a civil case. So, okay, you can say he wants discovery. The problem is where this is a civil case. He's not going to get access to FBI documents. He's not going to get access to federal servers. He's not going to get access to people involved in the federal government. This is a criminal case, and a prosecutor was going after it. Sure, they'll get issued warrants and shit. All they're going to have is access to evidence that has to do with the statement of facts, right? Relative evidence. Request for you request answers and you can interrogate people. You can request if Clinton says well that email doesn't exist, well you can request her to show up with it, but there's no legal threat behind it. No one's going to prison. You know what I mean? This is a civil case. It's not going to have discovery like it would if the FBI was prosecuting it. I don't think they're going to get much in discovery. I mean, they might get people to testify under oath. That's probably about it. But we'll see if this goes anywhere.
A lot of pundits are saying it won't go anywhere. I don't know. I haven't done enough research on both sides yet.
Yeah, well, that's just okay. Sure. The dossier was intended to not only harm Trump's candidacy. Oh, we just read that. His harm his candidacy is fabricated to the FBI. In drafting the dossier, still purported to rely upon numerous sources contributing information and provocations to him. Several of the alleged sources named in the dossier have refuted under oath that they provided any of the purported information contained in the dossier to Steele. Olga Galkina, a Russian citizen who was referenced as Subsource 3 in the dossier, stated that she was never a source or subsource to Steele and, in fact, never even met him. Alexei Dundich, a Russian citizen who was referenced as Subsource 4 in the dossier, stated that he was never a source of information and never even met Steele. Peter Avon, a Russian citizen who was referenced in the dossier, denies the allegations contained in the dossier and states that its contents are false. The primary source of the information provided in the dossier was Steele's analyst, Danchenko. From May 2016 through December of 2016, Danchenko assembled and provided to Steele purported information that Steele would in turn relay upon to draft the dossier. During the same time, Danchenko had numerous meetings, communication, and interactions with Dolan. There you go. Let's see, what's next? Dolan had stayed at the Moscow Hotel in June 2016, and during that trip, he participated in, among other things, a meeting with the general manager of Moscow Motel and a female hotel staff member, a lunch with a staff member and other members of the Moscow Hotel staff, and 3, a tour of the Moscow Hotel, including the presidential suite. Thereafter, Dolan told Danchenko that he learned from a hotel staffer that Trump had stayed in the presidential suite and engaged in salacious sexual activity. References to the Moscow Motel, the presidential suite, and the hotel manager and other staff would all later appear in the dossier, which included absurd allegations that Trump participated in sexual salacious activity. Dolan ultimately admitted that no one at the hotel mentioned anything to him about Trump's supposed sexual or salacious activity. Another allegation contained in the report, 111 of the dossier, claiming that the Russian government withdrew a Russian from his job at the Russian embassy in Washington, D.C. due to fears relating to the diplomat's purported role in meddling in the U.S. presidential election, had clearly originated from Dolan. Speaking separately to a compatriot, a senior Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs official reported that as a prophylactic measure, a leading Russian diplomat 1, had been withdrawn from Washington on short notice because Moscow feared his heavy involvement in the U.S. presidential election operation, including the so-called veterans pensions ruse reported previously, would be exposed in the media there. His replacement, Russian diplomat 2, however, was clean in this regard. So this is a whole story that's made up right here. This is a whole fucking story that's made up about a Russian diplomat having to be removed because they did so much. Because they did so much with the election. That none of that happened. None of that. It was just all made up. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not saying discovery doesn't exist. You can put the definition of discovery if you want to. The problem is it doesn't have any fucking teeth in a civil case. You're just basically politely asking, oh, you have evidence? Well, I get to see it before you bring it to court. Oh, you have a witness? We get to cross-examine them. Oh, we can call our own witnesses? Okay, I'm going to call this person. It doesn't have the teeth it has in a federal investigation where they can literally fucking subpoena any goddamn person in the world and show up at the work, get search warrants. Trump's attorney's not going to get a search warrant to kick down Hillary's fucking door. The FBI can. That's. I didn't say discovery doesn't exist. It doesn't have any teeth. When you see Trump with a search warrant in his hand, you'll know that something went terribly wrong. This allegation bore substantial similarities to information that Dolan received during the 2016 time period. Moreover, Dolan was undoubtedly a source for an allegation in the dossier regarding Paul Manafort's departure from the Trump campaign. He said it was true that the Ukraine corruption revelations had played a part in this, but also several senior players close to Trump had wanted Paul Manafort out, primarily to loosen his control of strategy and policy formulation. Of particular importance in this regard was Paul Manafort's predecessor as campaign manager, campaign staff member 1, who hated Paul Manafort personally and remained close to Trump, with whom he discussed the presidential campaign on a regular basis. The above allegation contained information that Dolan provided to Danchenko is in response to a specific request. In particular, on August 19, 2016, Danchenko emailed Dolan to inquire as to any thought, rumor, or allegation about Paul Manafort. Thereafter, on August 20th, 2016, Dolan emailed Danchenko the following: I had a drink with a GOP friend of mine who knows some of the players and got some of what is in this article, which provides even more detail. She also told me that campaign staff member 1, who hates Paul Manafort and staff, speaks to Trump regularly, played a role. He said to be doing a happy dance over it. He is said to be doing a happy dance over it. Later that same day, Danchenko replied to Dolan expressing his appreciation for the information. adding to their goals clearly coincided with respect to gathering derogatory information about Trump. Moreover, an allegation contained in the undated dossier report describes a well-developed conspiracy of cooperation between Donald J. Trump and the Trump campaign and senior Russian officials claiming, speaking in confidence with a compatriot in July 2016, Source E, an ethnic Russian close associate of Republican U.S. presidential candidate Donald J. Trump, admitted that there was a well-developed conspiracy of cooperation between them and the Russian leadership. So an unnamed ethnic Russian who's also close to Donald Trump admitted that there was a well-developed conspiracy of cooperation between Trump and Russia. This was managed on the Trump side by the Republican candidate's campaign manager, Paul Manafort, who was using foreign policy advisor Carter Page and others as intermediaries. The two sides had a mutual interest in defeating Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton, whom President Putin apparently both hated and feared. Hated and feared. Putin fears.
Putin fears.
This allegation would ultimately be offered in support of the FISA applications. Let's go down here to Sussman. So Sussman is, while this is Elias that did all this, the dossier stuff. Sussman was going to the computer company, Neustar, and Sussman was going to Neustar to invent this crazy Alpha Bank backdoor that doesn't exist. It says to put this plan in motion, the Clinton campaign, the DNC, and Perkins Coie required the assistance of a technology company with expertise to access to sensitive non-public data which could be exploited for their nefarious purposes. At all relevant times, Neustar was the information technology company founded in 1998, which offers various internet-related information, data, and analytic services, including DNS resolution services to its customers. Far from apolitical, Neustar and its employees have long been aligned with the Democratic Party. In 2016 alone, 100% of congressional campaign donations from Neustar went to Democrats. So they support Democrats. At all relevant times, Jaffe was an executive officer and owner of the company. Jaffe's in communication with high-ranking officials of the Clinton campaign. Jaffe was tentatively offered the top cybersecurity job by the Democrats in the event Clinton won the presidency. And he said that he definitely would not take the job under Trump. Perkins Coie Sussman, in particular, frequently served as outside counsel for Neustar. In this regard, Neustar was a significant source of revenue for Perkins Coie. Neustar, led by Jaffe, initiated the search for proof of a secret back door or a secret back channel between Trump and Alpha Bank. Jaffe and his researchers manipulated. Okay, here's where that. So they didn't find the back channel. Instead, it says, on or about August 20th of 2016, Jaffe and his researchers manipulated a sales form on two different websites, faking the other's email addresses to make them appear to communicate with each other. So I said earlier they made email addresses. They didn't make up fake email addresses. Basically, let's say Alpha Bank's email is alphabank@gmail. And Donald Trump, his email is trump@trump.com. Okay? They went to one website and they signed up as alphabank@gmail.com, and they signed up as Alpha Bank, and they put in all information for Alpha Bank, and they acted like they sent an invoice of something they sold to Donald Trump. And Donald Trump, Trump@gmail.com, would have gotten that email. Then they went to another website and signed up as Trump@trump.com, and they made a payment or a request for payment or whatever to alphabank@gmail.com, and through this other website to look like they paid for something. So two different websites from two different email accounts went to each other. Now, I'm sure Trump is inundated with spam, right? He probably, if he even saw it, thought, I don't do anything with Alpha Bank, and kept scrolling. It's fake, it's malicious, it's whatever. Alpha Bank is not going to check every email account. There was probably no reference to the account number, or wasn't right, or blah, blah, blah. But it makes it look like they're in communications with each other, even though they weren't. That was the back door they created. Jaffe believed that his fake interference was believable enough that Hillary's opposition research and whatever professional governments and investigative journalists are also digging would come up with the same things. On or about the same date, Jaffe clarified in an email to the task he had been given by Perkins Coie in the Clinton campaign, the DNC was indeed broad, and further stated in part, being able to provide evidence of anything that shows an attempt to behave badly in relation to this, the VIPs would be happy. They're looking for a true story that could be used as the basis for closer examination. On or about August 21st, 2016, Jaffe emailed his team researchers urging them to push forward with their anti-Trump research, which he claimed would give the base of a very useful narrative. In that same email, Jaffe admitted to the connection between Trump and Alpha Bank was merely a red herring with no factual basis and should be ignored. Despite this knowledge, Sussman and Jaffe began to draft, review, and revise a white paper summarizing the allegations, which they knew to be false, of a tie between Donald J. Trump and Alpha Bank. All the time that Sussman spent drafting his white papers, as with all the time spent working with Newstar, Fusion GPS, and all of his furtherance of defendants' conspiracy were billed to the Clinton campaign. On or about August 27, 2016, Jaffe sent the white paper on which Sussman had been working to his team with the following comment. All right, so he sent this paper that he's been typing up to make it look like they were tied together, even if maybe they weren't so much, and he knew it was false and a red herring, and even said it should be ignored. This right here is a red herring, meaning it's not real. It's just like an eye catcher to make you think, and it should be ignored. He knew all of those things, and still he went above and beyond to send this email out to his employees that says, quote, please read as if you had no prior knowledge or involvement and you were handed this document as a security expert, not a DNS expert, and were asked, is this plausible as an explanation? Not to be able to say that this is without a doubt fact, but to merely be plausible. Do not spend more than a short while on this. If you spend more than an hour, you have failed the assignment. Hopefully less. Smiley face. On or about the same date, one of Jaffe's researchers replied, stating that the white papers achieved Jaffe's objective, but noting that the paper smartly avoided discussing the weakness or holes in the paper's hypothesis. On or about September 15th, one of the recipients of the question responded to Jaffe, stating, in part, that the paper's conclusion was plausible in the narrow scope defined by Jaffe. On or about September 16, 2016, one of Jaffe's team confirmed that Sussman would convey the false information to the FBI regarding the supposed connection between Donald J. Trump and Alpha Bank with the plan to deceive. In addition, in furtherance of his efforts with Sussman and Elias to disseminate false allegations regarding Trump, Jaffe also exploited his access, which he had through multiple companies, including Newstar, Dissect Cyber, and Zetalytics, to unlawfully search, gather, and mine internet data, including then public and proprietary data, to obtain derogatory information on Donald J. Trump. The purpose of obtaining such data was to create an inference or narrative regarding Trump's purported ties to Russia. Those actions were directed by and or done at the behest of certain VIPs of the Clinton campaign and Perkins Coie, and those VIPs included Clinton, Sullivan, Elias, and Sussman. Among other things, Newstar, Jaffe, and their associates at the discretion of the Clinton campaign and the DNC exploited access to non-public proprietary internet data, including but not limited to domain name systems, internet traffic of a healthcare provider. So they hacked into this non-public data. They got I'm not going to use the word hack. They got non-public data that's not available to the public from a healthcare provider, from Trump Tower, from Donald Trump's private apartment in Central Park West, and from the executive office of the President of the United States. In doing so, Jaffe and Newstar intentionally accessed, without authorization or in excess of any authorization, the computers, the servers, and or the sensitive data sources at the above stated facilities. Furthermore, Jaffe and Newstar stole trade secrets in the form of proprietary, sensitive, and confidential data, information, and knowledge from the above stated facilities. With regard to the EOP, Jaffe and Newstar had come to access and maintain dedicated servers for the Office of the President as part of highly sensitive arrangement whereby Newstar provided DNS resolution services to the EOP. Jaffe and Newstar exploited this arrangement by, among other things, mining EOP's DNS traffic. So this is the Executive Office of the President. They mined his DNS traffic and other data for the purpose of gathering derogatory information about Donald J. Trump. In addition, Jaffe, Newstar, and their associates queried their holdings of non-public internet data against a lengthy list of more than 9,000 IP addresses, 3,000 internet domains, and 60 email addresses and domains that related to Donald J. Trump, the Trump Organization, and numerous Trump associates in their search for derogatory information. So I do not know how anybody, left, right, red, blue, Clinton, Bush, Trump, Obama, I don't know how anybody gets away with being a company and getting non-public data from the Executive Office of the President that is basically hacking into and seeing all the data going to and from the Office of the President. I don't know how that happens. I don't. If this is true, and this is the way it actually went down, I don't see how anybody hasn't been charged with this, or at a minimum. I know everybody's going to say, well, they didn't do this, they didn't do that. At a minimum, this is like the lowest level for like, oh yeah, we got to do something about this, right? Like they literally are stealing all the data that comes to and from the president. They can see who he's talking to, what he's talking about, who he's contacting, what websites he's going to, what he's getting from those websites, what he's reading, how long he's on them. Like, I don't get that part. As the president race takes form, the Steele dossier is used to mislead federal law enforcement. On July 26, 2016, Clinton won the nomination. On the same day, a briefing in the U.S. intelligence community warned that it had intercepted communications concerning the alleged approval by Hillary Clinton. So the U.S. intelligence community warned on July 26, 2016, that they intercepted a communication, the alleged approval by Hillary Clinton of a proposal from one of her foreign policy advisors to vilify Donald Trump by stirring up a scandal claiming interference by Russian security services. So the intelligence agency knew that she was fixing to do this. With the stage set and the election cycle underway, the defendants put their plan into action. Specifically, the defendants began feeding false information to the federal law enforcement authorities while simultaneously spreading those same lies through the media, all in an effort to cast malicious aspirations on Donald J. Trump and the Trump campaign and the Trump Organization. The opening salvo occurred in early to mid-July 2016 when Steele, a paid FBI informant, began sending his dossier memoranda to the FBI, knowing that they contained false information on Donald J. Trump purported to show compromising ties to Russia. On the morning of July 31st, 2016, Steele met with Nellie Orr and Bruce Orr, her husband, at which time Steele discussed his work on the Steele dossier. Bruce Orr was already aware at that time that Steele was sharing his information with the Clinton campaign. Jesus Christ. On that same day, the FBI opened a Foreign Agents Registration Act, a FARA, investigation known as Operation Crossfire Hurricane, into which individuals associated with the Trump campaign were witting of and or coordinating activities with the Russian government. Among others, the FBI Crossfire Hurricane was led by Peter Strzok, James Comey, Andrew McCabe, and FBI Special Counsel Lisa Page, and FBI Attorney Kevin Clinesmith. There's text messages between Stork and Lisa Page, which you've all seen, where they say, we can't let this happen. We won't. We'll step in. He's not going to be president. Blah, blah, blah. I want to believe the path you threw out for consideration in Andrew McCabe's office, that there's no way Trump gets elected. But I'm afraid if we can't take that risk, it's like an insurance policy. It's unlikely in the event you die before you're 40. The reference to an insurance policy reveals that Stork and Page intended to ensure that if Donald J. Trump did indeed win the presidential election, that he would be quickly removed from office, or at a minimum, unable to effectively govern. Let's see here. Agent of foreign power, knowingly engaged in clandestine intelligence activities. In short, legitimately obtain a... So this is the Carter Page FISA warrant, where it says the only way you're supposed to be able to get a FISA warrant is that the target is an agent of a foreign power who is knowingly engaging in clandestine intelligence activities. It does not seem like Carter Page was an agent of a foreign power who was knowingly engaging in clandestine intelligence activities. Sounds like they really abused that. I'm popping some of the top. Yes, I'm live on YouTube. We're on the backup channel. You'll have to go to the backup channel if you want to read that. Anyways, people are messaging me. The FBI applied for 4 separate FISA warrants, which was one was the original. The other 3 were to renew it. The FBI used the Still dossier to get these FISA warrants. Knowing that some of the statements contained in the dossier were false, if not all of them. They never told the judge that. They never told anybody at the FISA court application that any of this was false, could have been false. Stork was directly involved in the decision to open Crossfire Hurricane and the FISA and the 4 FISA applications. Additionally, documentation opening each of the 4 individual investigations was approved by Stork. So they got everybody from McCabe up, or from Stork up, listed in it. McCabe, James Comey, Lisa Page, all of those are listed all over the FISA warrants paperwork. Clinesmith was assigned to provide legal support to the FBI personnel working on Crossfire Hurricane. Clinesmith worked with the National Security Division of the United States Department of Justice to prepare the FISA applications to obtain authority from the United States Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court. So Clinesmith worked to make sure that these would go through. While assisting the FBI, Clinesmith doctored an email. So this is Clinesmith's big downfall right here. I thought you left early, Shar. I figured you weren't feeling good or something. While assisting the FBI, Clinesmith doctored an email with the Central Intelligence Agency. Clinesmith communicated that the CIA regarding Carter Page was a source. Clinesmith communicated with the CIA regarding whether Carter Page was a source. Clinesmith took the email he received and added the words, "not a source," and provided the doctored email to the FBI. Clinesmith, who was supposed to be legal counsel for the FBI, contacted the CIA and said, "Hey, is this guy one of your sources?" They said no, or they said yes, or they said we can't tell you. He added "not a source" to the email and then provided it as evidence to the FBI. Or had regular contact with Crossfire Hurricane team and provided the team with information that appeared in the FBI interview report. James Comey was the director of the FBI, and his actions and capacity allowed the false Trump-Russia collusion narrative to continue to thrive. Comey was aware, should have been aware, that there was no evidentiary basis for the FISA applications, and that the Still dossier was not a credible source. Then it starts talking about the Washington Times. The Washington Times reported that it obtained a 3-page highly classified memo in September 2016, which the CIA informed that the FBI Director James Comey, the Clinton campaign, was planning to blame collusion between Trump and the Russian government. The memo shows that Comey was advised by the CIA of what the Clinton campaign has been doing. Comey was advised of the fact that the Clinton campaign was setting up Donald J. Trump weeks after the FBI had opened the Crossfire Hurricane investigation and alleged collusion. The information was a red flag to the FBI, and it was ignored as Comey was aligned with the Clinton campaign. So that's Donald Trump's opinion about Comey at the end. But that warning is 100% true. They received a warning from the CIA saying, hey, they're trying to set up Trump. While they were literally doing an investigation, it looked like Trump was being set up, and they ignored it. Jesus. It was just completely ignored. Comey admitted in December 2018 during the testimony before the House Judiciary Committee that prior to signing the FISA application to obtain the warrant to conduct surveillance on Carter Page, that he was aware of the fake dossier authored by Steele was financed by the Clinton campaign and the DNC, or, as he referred to them, political actors who opposed Donald J. Trump. Yet, none of that information was disclosed as a FISA application in October 2016. So he said it, and he was aware of it, but none of it was provided for the documentation for the FISA warrant. Moreover, Comey, during his, and that clearly that's pertinent information that he should have provided. Moreover, Comey, during his testimony before the House Judiciary Committee, disclosed that that when he met with Donald J. Trump in January 2017 in Trump Tower to brief him on the dossier, that he failed to inform the incoming president about who financed the document, despite the fact that Comey was well aware that it was financed by Hillary Clinton via the DNC and the Clinton campaign through Perkins Coie. So he refused to tell Donald J. Trump who paid for it. I'm sure Trump probably figured it out, but where did this dossier come from? Who commissioned this? He failed to tell him that. Comey intentionally withheld that information from Donald J. Trump as well as the FISA applications themselves. Comey not only withheld that information from Donald J. Trump and the FISA court so that the scheme could be hidden. Hold on. So the scheme could be hidden, but he also pushed back on behalf of the FBI request from Donald J. Trump to investigate the origins of the salacious material, i.e. the dossier. As such, Comey confirmed that he did not tell Donald J. Trump during his briefing that the dossier had been paid for by his political opposition, mainly Hillary Clinton, the Clinton campaign, and the DNC via Perkins Coie law firm. Comey utilized the Steele dossier as purported evidence to sign the FISA documents to conduct surveillance against Carter Page. We know when he knew that the dossier was discredited. So he signed the warrants using this dossier to go collect information, to go monitor, to go wiretap Carter Page is what the warrant was for. He knew that the dossier could have false information. He knew it was paid for by the Clintons. He knew all of that shit. He knew that the dossier was discredited, as the way they put it, and he failed to advise the FISA court. Again, Comey failed to tell the advisor court on the dossier was reportedly funded by the Clinton campaign. Comey failed to tell the FISA court that the dossier he relied upon to request a warrant to monitor Carter Page was a product of the Fusion GPS. Comey relied on the dossier to monitor Carter Page, even though months later he called the information in the dossier salacious and unverified. So months before, he was using it as evidence to get warrants, and then months after that, he was calling it salacious and unverified. What a snake in the grass, dude. What a snake in the grass. Since it's just a civil case, they can just settle and issue a gag order. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. This might all get settled out of court, and we never hear about it ever again. That would be in the settling of it, that no one can speak about it. Comey relied on the dossier, even though the FBI determined that document was only minimally corroborated. He relied heavily. That's all they had. All they had, the only evidence they had was the FBI or the CIA saying, hey, FBI, we think that Hillary Clinton's trying to set Donald Trump up with some type of Russian collusion. Then they had a discredited setup document about Russian collusion and Donald Trump. That was the only two pieces of evidence they had. So, of course, they relied heavily upon it. They had nothing else. All right, guys. That's where we caught up to right there. That's what I did with the patrons. I did a really quick version for you guys because I wanted, one, you to get to this new channel. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like the video. Two, I just wanted to speak with you tonight because tomorrow's game night. And I didn't want to not do a show and then go to game night. We're going to review the rest of this, okay? We're going to review the rest of this. Actually, the video's already live. I'm getting ready to drop the link to all the patrons. If you're a $7 and up patron, I'm going to drop it in the Telegram group. I'm going to send it to, it'll come to your email. It'll be on the Patreon page. It'll be everywhere you want to see it. That includes Facebook. I'm turning Facebook off too. So if you're a $7 up patron, this is about to come your way shortly. And we're going to go over the rest of this document. We've got, I don't know, probably 2 hours to get it done. And we're on page 37, and there's a bunch of shit I want to do. So there's like some there's some back and forth conversations recorded in here. But you don't have to watch it this is public information. It's not something special I have. If you're not a patron, you can just go read the documents if you want to. But yeah, we're fixing to go to Patreon for $7 and up. It'll be in the Telegram page. It'll be on the Patreon page. It'll be in your email. It'll be everywhere that it could possibly be. You're fixing to get this document, and I'll send it to you shortly. I'm posting it right now on the Patreon page. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for the donations that come in the first half of this show. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel. I know it hasn't happened recently, but we're overdue. My channel gets struck all the freaking time, and I have to fight it. Sometimes I win them, sometimes I lose them, but it doesn't matter because it takes days to either win or lose the dispute. So make sure you're subscribed to this channel. I know we only had 60 people tonight. We got to get this channel built up so people can find us. I'm going to start mentioning it more in the main show and getting people over here. We should have at least 100 people over here every time I broadcast over here, because y'all are the people aren't subscribed, don't have notifications turned on. My own wife wasn't subscribed. So I'm going to drop the link. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to play some music right quick while I drop the link and then let everybody come in. Everybody have a good night. See you tomorrow during the daytime. During the daytime, be looking for me to play. We're going to play the Motion and Sage, a zombie game. I can't even remember the name of the game, but that's all right. I always think of Left 4 Dead or Dead by Daylight, but it's neither. State of Decay 2. We're going to be playing State of Decay. Whatever F Telegram, but Hearts to You. It's not going to be on Telegram, but Hearts to You, I guess. I don't broadcast on Telegram, but thank you. Anyways, yeah, I'm going to be playing some video games tomorrow during the day, and we'll do our nightly video game, the horror video games we got, and I got a heart rate monitor to break out tomorrow, so we'll check all that out. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for the donations. Thank you for the support, and we'll see you tomorrow to play some video games. Have a good night, everybody.
What you think about when you're born into a fire? Let them burn it out. Sell them to the richest.
Let me turn off some channels here, guys.
The world decay.
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you over at the other channel.